What is up? This is Yahoo NBA Live. Pete McCarthy, Eric Lindquist with you on a Tuesday morning as we get ready for some big NBA action. Pounding the blueberries, getting it ready to go, huh, Eric?
Oh, my God. I got to say, this is like the most disheveled I've felt on a show maybe ever, which is saying something. I have a dog that will not go to bed. He just needs to sleep. It's like 5:30 every single morning. The guy just needs to go outside. And I'm like, all right, we go outside. We're set to go. But then he thinks it's playtime and it's pitch dark out. And I just am like, and then we were obviously up hanging out for Valentine's Day last night. And he just wanted to be a part of everything, hanging out with us, like following us around the entire place. It's like 11 o'clock. You're just like, all right, time to go to bed now. And he just sleeps during the day and then he wants to party at night. So it's literally the opposite of everything you need. How's your life going, considering you have an actual child and actual problems? And I'm just, these are LA problems.
It's not all that different, kind of. But yeah, I mean, he sounds like Eric Lindquist, maybe in his early 20s, wants to stay up all night, ready to party, sleep all day. Was that your
something
life
like that?
Then you got a dog.
Yeah, now the dog lives the life that I want. Maybe that's what it is. I think he gets to live the life that I want. So maybe I'm doubly upset with him. But such is what it is. He's a cute thing, so we're gonna keep him. But my God, there are thoughts that you have that are like, oh man, we just hit eject on this idea. Pretty hard though. Pretty hard, especially when he's just as cute as he is.
I know. I had to do that with a cat once. We got a cat for an apartment, like a little kitten, and cat was awesome. Like, really enjoyed the cat, but I was more allergic to cats than I realized, and I started like wheezing. And when you broadcast, wheezing on the air isn't great. So we had to ship the kitty back to my in-laws in Florida. They were kind enough to take the cat because you don't want to bring the cat back once you adopt it. But it was a kind of painful thing for my then fiance, now wife. So that was our trial period before having a baby. Thankfully, we haven't given the baby back or up to anybody. But the kitten, we had to let it go.
I was going to say, I remember Laffy having this discussion on a Live Before Lock here recently, where he was just so confused being told about what shaking baby syndrome was. He's just like, what are people talking about? And then he's like 3 weeks into it, he goes, I see why they talk to us about that at the hospital. I was like, that's understandable. And I was like, I relate to it in a dog sense. It's like, oh my God, just stop it already.
Yeah, when you haven't slept, it all starts to slip a little bit. So we're through that. We got our blueberries. We're ready to go. We're gearing up. We got some coffee going. NBA lineups to get to. Yes, let's make it happen. Of course, give us a like, subscribe, keep up with all of our shows, our cat stories, our DFS offers, our giveaways, and much, much more. And once you do subscribe, hit that notification button. You get alerts when our shows go live. You can even set your alert probably to meow at you. Be sure to also check out today's free premium tools and data, which are NBA player projections, NHL player rankings, and PGA golfer rankings, as well as our podcast giveaway. I'm missing NFL stuff in there, but that's okay. Just head to our Awesemo podcast channel below. Give us a 5-star review with your Twitter handle or Awesemo username included, and you'll be entered to win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. NFL is over. Now we really get to lock in on the NBA. Looking at this slate, just a real quick rundown of what we're looking at. The biggest thing will be whether Giannis plays tonight. But you look at that top end, it's kind of Luka Doncic and Joel Embiid, and then it dries up a little bit from there. Not a whole lot of studs that you're really going for. And as of now, it's still early in the day. We don't have that team that benched their entire starting rotation. So we're not looking at a bunch of $10 minimum priced guys that we can run and go studs and duds at this point in the day.
I like studs and duds. I've never actually heard it put as such. It's always stars and scrubs, and studs and duds is way better. I like that. Well done by you. I will say I'm with you. It's Yahoo. It's amazing because talking about strategy there, it's just a completely different puzzle than you have on DraftKings and FanDuel because you have strict positionality, point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. Literally no cross positionality. You do have a guard, forward, and utility spot, which opens it up to be able to roster multiple ones. But for the most part, you also pay up for nice things on Yahoo.com. You have Giannis 56, Luka 55, and Joel Embiid 54. All of those guys are more than 25% of the total cap at $200. So looking at Yahoo today, I'm with you where I think getting up to Giannis, getting up to Doncic, Joel Embiid, I think will be popular because of center and how that positionality works out. And we'll obviously get to that. But yeah, we're going to be waiting on that Giannis news. Hopefully it can be something that pops up earlier like yesterday, but you just kind of never know. If he went from doubtful yesterday, maybe he's questionable today and we have to sweat it out a little bit. But considering it's earlier, I mean, what time is that game lock? I guess it's a little bit later than I thought, 8 p.m. Eastern time, going to be something where you still have half an hour to kind of see what ends up happening there.
Yeah, it's a later start time tonight, 7:30, the start of this slate. So let's start breaking down the point guard position. We'll begin with Luka. We already touched on a little bit there, $55. Dude's been on a tear since Kristaps Porzingis was sent out of town. 71 Yahoo points in each of his last 2 games. Now, they're both against the Clippers. That might have something to do with it, but they're both since Porzingis was out. 45, 15, and 8 on Saturday, and then 51, 9, and 6 on Thursday.
Useful.
When he is right, he is the best in the league. I know Nikola Jokic and all this kind of thing. I love watching Luka Doncic.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun. And they had Zubats out there guarding Luka. They basically said, we're going to let Luka do whatever he wants, and we'll just try to make somebody else beat us, and nobody else really. Brunson was knocking down threes there in some of those spots. I think one of the pieces of news that might go a little bit under talked about here, you have no Spencer Dinwiddie on the injury report. I don't know what that's going to really look like, but as much as Kristaps Porzingis is the guy who's talked about, I think it's really the absence of Tim Hardaway Jr. that makes a bigger impact. Luka Doncic, 39% usage with Tim Hardaway off the floor. Obviously, we know his assist rate, rebounding rate are fantastic as well, things that aren't necessarily in Tim Hardaway Jr.'s forte. But now you ship off Kristaps Porzingis. There's no doubt who's going to be handling the ball every single situation here. He's been playing huge minutes, 40 plus now, or close to 40 here in the last 2, 69.8, 68 on Yahoo. With Tim Hardaway Jr. out here, I think it's a fantastic spot here for Luka to continue investing. Tougher Miami spot, 209 total, but Spencer Dinwiddie may be the guy that could have a little bit of bring a little bit of a stagnation to Luka Doncic's run, but unlikely to me.
How would Dinwiddie affect things in your mind here?
So this is where just you get a new guy, you want to get him involved, you get it acclimated to the offense. Maybe you give him an opportunity to show out a little bit earlier here. He's a piece that they've brought in. I think they basically chopped up the Kristaps Porzingis contract with this acquisition. I think Davis Bertans is just eating money, and then Spencer Dinwiddie might be a guy who can put up some serviceable minutes or be an insurance policy for Jalen Brunson in free agency. I think that you basically have 2 guys that you can possibly do different things with rather than the Porzingis contract where he's making almost $40 million. It's just a disaster. That just didn't work out for them. I think they hit eject on that. I think there was some friction there between him and Luka, and Dallas was willing to eat a lot of this money with these guys. But Spencer Dinwiddie back with Brooklyn was very serviceable. He's had a terrible season. No questions asked there. He's going to be a guy that I think could, in a new environment, we see this all the time. Somebody gets in a new situation, whether it's like a Justice Winslow right now, Tyrese Halliburton was going to be good no matter what, but we see new guys starting to show out with their new teams. They get prioritized maybe a little bit more in the offense. So I'm looking at Spencer Dinwiddie as somebody who also a big box score contributor. We can see him being a guy who can pick up assists and rebounds. So it's not that I'm worried that he's going to come out and chuck it 15 times a game here and replicate anything, but in a similar sense to what Porzingis had the capability of doing, I think it can definitely limit Luka's ceiling a little bit.
Yeah, and you get into Dinwiddie a little bit with the Brooklyn Nets. He always seemed like a likable guy, and then whatever happened in Washington, the reports that his teammates weren't a big fan of him, and yeah, he could use a fresh start. He'll get it in Dallas, and we'll see what kind of playing time he might get. Expected to come off the bench and could have a small impact, some kind of impact on Luka Doncic tonight. Again, you're paying up for Doncic. Other point guard positions, we can look at maybe Trae Young, Chris Paul, bundle these 2 together. They're both looking at $40, relatively high if you look at the boom bust tool in terms of where they rank as far as point guards go. Trae Young, 5 straight double-doubles. Chris Paul has been a double-double machine with all the assists that he has racked up, 19 assists his last game against Milwaukee.
Chris Paul's been outrageous against the Clippers too. I mean, anytime he's playing the Clippers, I never think about incentives or motivation or anything else, but I bet there's a part of him that really wants to shove it in the Clippers' face every time he plays them. He's on the better basketball team. The Clippers have been playing a little bit above their heads here in the absence of both Paul George and obviously Kawhi Leonard, and now Norman Powell going forward. Chris Paul is going to have very little resistance. The Clippers are on a back-to-back here in this spot. I think that it sets up really nicely to be investing in Chris Paul on this side of it. $40. It's 20% of your cap. It's relative to paying somebody $10K over on DraftKings. That's about appropriate to what Chris Paul has been producing of late, but he does everything. His floor is just so high. I mean, he has only had one game sub 38 fantasy points since like the middle of June. I mean, since the middle of January. It's just a ridiculous allotment of assists, contributions across the board here. The rebound rate, probably not something that is ever going to be a consideration, which lowers his ceiling. That's why a guy like LaMelo Ball or Luka Doncic, that's why they're more expensive. They're guys who can contribute in that aspect as well. But don't get me wrong, Chris Paul, I think at $40, probably a little bit of a priority for me. Trae Young going up against Darius Garland. You think about matchup here. Bogdanovich did go through shoot around. If Bogdanovich and Wright are out, maybe you see some extra allotment where they just let Trae Young run out there for 40 minutes and try to make it happen. But Cleveland has proved to be a tough matchup. He's 18%. I think he's a little bit more popular than what I would want on Yahoo today.
Just because you mentioned LaMelo, he's kind of been all over the place of late with that Hornets team, and they're figuring out spots with Gordon Hayward being out. Terry Rozier all of a sudden has caught fire. What do you make of LaMelo Ball tonight, now up to $42?
Yeah, I see. This is the guy that I really want to be targeting. If he's going to be around 6%, LaMelo Ball is a 1.35 Yahoo point per minute player on the season. I mean, he's just a phenomenal fantasy asset. And a guy like LaMelo Ball, once again, contributes in a number of ways. I will say his ceiling is once in a while going to evaporate. That's why you're seeing him at 6%, is because once in a while you get that massive Miles Bridges or Kelly Oubre comes out and contributes in a massive way. I would say that this is probably the site where LaMelo Ball is the most appropriately priced across the entire board when we're talking about the three major sites. But that also brings down that rostership. And so we're looking at 6% for him. Hard for me not to love going that direction in tournaments. I actually prefer him to Luka Doncic. $13 you're saving off the top of it. I talked about some of my concerns that we have there in terms of what Spencer Dinwiddie. It's not going to be somebody that I don't think Luka is going to be giving the ball up to a decent amount, but I just think there's enough things that he does across the board that can limit his ceiling. And we really got to be thinking about ceiling, and 103 total for the Mavericks going up against Miami. Probably not going to be the spot, but Charlotte in a track meet, 119 Vegas total going up against Minnesota, $13 less, checks just about every box for me.
The Hornets just put up some absurd point totals once in a while if you hit it on the right night. And for LaMelo, I mean, it's pretty wild. I'm looking at his last 7 games and his Yahoo points. He has been either at 57 or above in 3 of those 7, or 34 and below in the other 4. So, like, that's pretty – he's not in the middle a whole lot recently between 34 and 57. He's either giving you a great game or he's keeping you out of the money.
Yeah, he's a freak. He's very, very good at basketball. And, you know, as a Minnesota Timberwolves fan, obviously him and D'Angelo Russell would have been a fun combination to watch. But Anthony Edwards has been pretty above serviceable. So I'm okay with it at the moment. Ask me again in a month because I might be depressed about it again. But LaMelo Ball is a freak, and he's really fun to watch. He's probably one of my favorite guys. You think about like the transition of him from high school being a guy that obviously was notorious out here in, you know, Chino Hills out there just chucking from half court, a little bit arrogant and whatever else. Well, he's kind of earned his stead in the NBA already in his sophomore year. So I really like LaMelo Ball. But again, 6%, that's really the super intriguing part about being able to get to him as well, is he just trims a lot of rostership off of Trae Young, Chris Paul, who I do like a lot today. We'll get to shooting guard because thank God Tyrese Halliburton's over there and I don't have to worry about him at point guard. There's just a lot of really good spots to get to, but LaMelo Ball, probably my favorite for tournaments. And as you said, just Charlotte second in pace in the season, a little bit behind Houston. It's always a beautiful thing to see Charlotte on the board.
Yes. And I always have respect for guys that are like on the national radar at 14 years old and actually kind of live up to it. Bryce Harper, LeBron James, and Melo Ball, not hyped like those two, but obviously behind Lonzo, Dad LeVar, the whole 9 yards. You knew who he was at a young age. And at a young age, people were saying, hey, this is the best of the balls. And it's no small feat being better than Lonzo. If even if he's not a superstar at the NBA level, he made it to the league. He's been a solid player. And now LaMelo certainly has that superstar upside there. Elsewhere at point guard, Drew Holiday. This will be one of the big, does Giannis play? Does he not? Because when Giannis is out, Drew Holiday's usage skyrockets. He goes from 18 points per game to 23 points per game when Giannis is out. So you had a good night last night, led the Bucks in points, $31. That becomes a pretty nice bargain if Giannis is out.
Yeah, and he goes from right around a 1.13 Yahoo points per minute player with Giannis on the floor to a 1.31 with Giannis off. So we're looking at a massive differential between the two, nearly 0.2 fantasy points per minute. And that's a gigantic gap here. I don't let it go undersold here as well. I was talking a little bit about like new situations. Well, this is a new situation that Milwaukee has. You had Grayson Allen actually be very, very serviceable yesterday, played 32 minutes here. We'll see what he's capable of. Wesley Matthews is starting to play some minutes here. I think Drew Holiday also is a guy. It's not like he's not going to have secure minutes, but it might be one of those things against Indiana, one of the best matchups you can possibly have at 234 total. They're massive favorites, 12.5. Drew Holiday could see some extra minutes just because of the absence of bodies that they have there compared to what they did before. George Hill is injured. They shipped off Dante DiVincenzo to Sacramento in order to pick up Serge Ibaka in that four-way trade, I believe it was. You just have a lot of these guys that might have to see some extra minutes allotment. So I think Milwaukee against Indiana, Charlotte against anybody, you have the opportunity to really invest above the field. Two phenomenal game environments on this 7-gamer that just kind of stick out above the rest. So Milwaukee, if you have no Giannis, I think $31 Drew Holiday becomes the best point guard play, and nobody really should question that.
Well, it sounds like you like the Bucks enough that maybe even if Giannis does play, Drew is in the mix for it.
Yeah. I think it is. I think you have to kind of still consider it. I mean, Drew's a 1.13, 1.12 Yahoo points per minute player here on the season with Giannis on the floor. I think he's more than serviceable. I don't have any issue trying to take that shot there. I mean, obviously, we have Giannis projected in right now here at Awesemo simply for the sake that if you didn't have him in, you would basically be running into a lot of problems where it would be 100% Bucks players popping up across the industry again. There wasn't any adjustment based off of yesterday for any of their prices for the new situation where Giannis was actually doubtful and didn't play. So I'm looking at Drew Holiday, even Grayson Allen, when we get over the shooting guard position. I think looking at those two, you can start to talk about Jordan Nwora again, even though he didn't start it became Serge Ibaka there. Number of ways that Milwaukee could definitely chop up these minutes, but no doubt about it, against Indiana, you're going to want to target them.
Going below that $31 mark at the point guard position on Yahoo. The only one I noted based on looking at the boom bust tool this morning was Kyle Lowry coming off just 25 Yahoo points against Brooklyn last time out, but had a big game at New Orleans a couple of games ago, 14, 11, and 11, triple-double. Anybody else jump out at you as we're starting to look for some value at the point guard position?
Yeah, Reggie Jackson's been my highest owned player the last two slates he's been on the 12th and then yesterday on Valentine's Day. I just love targeting Reggie Jackson in this new situation. There's no Norman Powell, obviously no Paul George. There had been some weird minutes we had been seeing, and I don't know if they were thinking about shipping Reggie Jackson or trying to make moves, but there were some weird minutes that we were looking at for the Clippers, middle to end of January there. He had played like 16, 19, 21 minutes in 3 games consecutively. They were in a massive drought there, or he was specifically. You had a lot of options, but once they shipped out the other guys, Justice Winslow, everybody else, there's a lack of bodies that can really do what he's capable of doing on the floor. They've got Terrence Mann playing the backup point guard role here. Amir Coffey's really been limited in terms of what his minutes are now. He's played 30 and 23 the last 2. He's been serviceable in that backup role, but I mean, that's just kind of the depth that they're lacking. I mean, Jay Scrubb's been out forever. That would be 5 minutes, 10 minutes you could be looking at there. Luke Kennard, questionable again here. If he doesn't play, I think you just jam Reggie Jackson again. $22. He's 28%. He's the most popular point guard we currently have, but once again, I see no way. People are starting to catch on that Reggie Jackson, $22. This situation's too good to be true. And it really just is, even against Phoenix, a tough spot, but I really don't care. His new circumstance is too good to target.
And just $22. You certainly like that with the opportunity that Reggie Jackson has to get things going there. So another guy to keep in mind as far as that point guard position is concerned. Hey, with Daytona right around the corner, we're offering our Awesemo Plus NASCAR package for less than $2 per cup race this season. That's $70 for a full year of Awesemo Plus NASCAR. This pass gives you access to our driver projections, ownership projections, and top drivers tool to give you the edge you need in NASCAR DFS. Use promo code GREENFLAG at checkout or simply click the link in the description of this video to activate. This offer is valid through February 20th. So you got a little bit of time to get there, but it goes quickly. It all goes quickly, especially not sleeping at night. You're figuring out your little puppy, the whole thing.
God.
Yeah. Well, sorry.
It's been good for my golf showdown lineups. I will say that. I've been waking up. It's like 5 a.m.
You're ready.
It's like, I'm ready to rock. Let's study this thing for an hour and a half rather than just making lineups the night before and not really caring.
You're a big NASCAR guy?
I'm not a huge NASCAR guy. I'd say that's probably the only sport that I've never, I did a little bit in the pandemic like everybody else, because it was one of the only available sports where they were still rocking and rolling no matter what. So I at least have like the general base knowledge, but that's about it. It's the one sport that I just don't think I could ever cover here.
That was a weird time a year ago or whenever that was. I was doing sports updates, like national sports updates. And then we had to learn how to say the Bundesliga teams because that was like the lead for your sports updates. Obviously, a lot of NASCAR, Indy racing, all that, whatever was happening. You're just trying to squeeze something in there. And
for me, like everybody else, I think it was a lot of waking up and trying to differentiate which Kims and Lees you were going to be rostering in KBO. It was a blast. KBO.
People always speak well of it. Yeah,
dude, it was the best sweat. And you would have guys that would just roster. If you messed up your CSV, you were in a lot of trouble. But I will say, I do look back fondly on the KBO days. Those were the best.
Korean baseball, they're still playing it. You can get right back on the wagon, and now you're up in the middle of the night. You're ready.
Have changed drastically. There's some money incentive there too. Let's be slight Tyler Xander, but yeah, I'm looking at prize pools of like $1,000 to first now, 20K, 50K to first. We had for a couple of those. It was bonkers how fun that was.
Get going. Shooting guard position. Tyrese Halliburton, you mentioned it before. You don't have to worry about him at point guard. You got him at shooting guard. Dude, 54 Yahoo points last game for Indiana. He seems to be getting some opportunities there at $34.
Yeah, it's hard not to like this. And I never used the term run back. That's obviously something we use a lot for NFL in terms of what your bring back is going to be. But it's hard not to bring back this game, Milwaukee, if Giannis is going to be out with Tyrese Halliburton. He's $34. He's at a shooting guard position where the opportunity cost would become Grayson Allen, who I think is serviceable. And $12, he played a lot more minutes. 12 minutes. It really showed. I didn't know how him and Wes Matthews were going to break down those minutes. And Grayson Allen, maybe it's just something where they do the hot hand approach going forward with some of these guys, but they're lacking for bodies in a real way. And I'm surprised that they moved DiVincenzo. I guess that was the cost of them trying to get a serviceable backup in Serge Ibaka, or now starter, I guess, in Serge Ibaka alongside Bobby Portis. So I think that there's definitely a path where Tyrese Halliburton needs to be your main guy. $34 for this new circumstance that he's in Indiana. You just are going to see him play all the minutes here. They have a shiny new toy. He creates for everybody. I think it helps the pace here having him. Buddy Hield is going to be crazy popular. O'Shea Brissett's going to be crazy popular on Yahoo. All of them fit together nicely. But for tournaments specifically, Tyrese Halliburton, $34. He's the guy who has the ceiling that I want from this team.
How about we're now about a week removed from the trade deadline, right? We've seen some of these guys play a couple of games. Some still have to be integrated, whether it be Dinwiddie or eventually James Harden after the All-Star break. But Tyrese Halliburton, maybe it's kind of obvious because he's going to play as a starter. But at what point do you start to look at a guy's role in a new team and really put a lot of meaning behind these 1, 2, maybe 3 games we've seen from these guys in new uniforms, new situations?
It depends. It can really difference by sample size, but I always tell people, if you are late to the party, you missed it. Like you just have to invest in what you're seeing pretty early, because once everybody catches on to what that trend is, you're not going to be able to capitalize on it. Tyrese Halliburton's played 40 plus minutes in 3 consecutive games. Like, we're talking about a ridiculous opportunity that he has here. He was doing something similar in Sacramento, but I would say even more so. They are pushing him to the limit, trying to build this team, and maybe Buddy Hield and O'Shea Brissett and these guys have you play with Tyrese Halliburton. You have a guy who's setting you up in great situations. He's just maybe it's the Iowa State homer in me, but going back to his days there, his injury changed us from being a top 5 team in the country to being not even remotely top 50. Like, he is that big of a difference maker there in his sophomore year here already, showing out. You heard every GM squeal about the opportunity that they missed to get Tyrese Halliburton. He creates and opens up everything for this basketball team. So 40 plus minutes, check. Creates and adds in every statistical category. Rebounds you'd like to see come up a little bit, but you're on the floor 40 plus minutes here. I think in the absence of some of these bigs, I think we're going to see eventually a double-double happen down the pipeline. And if it does, real triple-double, massive fantasy point upside.
Yeah, 16 assists last game. And he's still feeling out his teammates.
He had 9 in the first quarter.
That's a day. That's a day right there.
What?
And look, he's $34. I'm looking like Terry Rozier, who's been hot of late, and maybe his role has changed a little bit with the Hornets with Hayward being out. 35, 10, and 9 last game, a triple-double the game before that, but only $1 less than Tyrese Halliburton there. What do you make of Rozier? I mean, it's not a new situation, but things have changed a little bit with the Hornets. Obviously have that big upside with how they get up and down the floor.
Completely different situation, though. You have no Cody Martin. You have Ish Smith, who got shipped out. You have James Bouknight, who's basically playing backup to LaMelo Ball more so. Terry Rozier is out there unencumbered at the shooting guard position, 60 plus his last 2. He's only 12%, $33. I mean, we're talking a high point on price for the entire season for Terry Rozier. He was $29 on opening night, has not been above the $30 threshold until today. So you're really buying high, but I think it's appropriate. It's probably more than appropriate, actually. It's not just the 60-point upside that you have there, but it's minute security. I think there's a floor when somebody's taking something like 27 shots that we saw last game against Memphis here. And if Charlotte wants to win basketball games, if they're really going out there trying to win basketball games, you're going to play Terry Rozier as much as he possibly can. I'm surprised that they haven't let LaMelo Ball. I mean, part of it has been foul trouble in a couple of these games, so he hasn't been on the floor as much, and Terry Rozier ends up benefiting. But there's no doubt $33 is still probably too cheap considering all of the guys: Gordon Hayward, Cody Martin, no Ish Smith on the team, and James Bouknight is just not a serviceable backup.
And then look at CJ McCollum, new situation in New Orleans, $31, kind of that same area, season high 36 points on Saturday. 41 Yahoo points in 32 minutes last night for the Pelicans. It looks like they're letting him shoot a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting. Are you talking Jaylen Brown?
McCollum,
sorry, $31. I was looking at both of them at 31 here. CJ McCollum, New Orleans, he's going to go up in price from this point. Pelicans are similar to the Blazers in a lot of ways, where he had a number 2 sitting or a number 1, Damian Lillard, and now his situation is him and Brandon Ingram. But I will say there's an opportunity that he has to just be able to go out and chuck every single night here. Herbert Jones, not a high usage guy whatsoever. Jonas Valanciunas can be from time to time, but that's more situational. CJ McCollum, I think there's no doubt about it. Until Zion were to get back, that price is going to go up from the $31 point that it's at here now. Played 36, 32 minutes now, the last 2. We're looking at a really good situation for every single Pelicans player. Going forward, Memphis, you're looking at a 112.25 total here. I don't know why I said 0.25. That was embarrassing, but that's what it is. I'm just looking at a really good game environment here too. Nearly a 230 total. It pales in comparison to Milwaukee, Indiana, and Minnesota, Charlotte, but more than serviceable. I think in tournaments, I'm still going to be looking to get over on CJ McCollum every single time until we start seeing him priced more in the 35, 36 range. You can't play everybody here. And it's an uncomfortable fade because D'Angelo Russell's going to be popular and he's been awesome, no doubt about it. But, they've got the 125 total. They've got the high total here on the slate going up against Charlotte in this track meet. And I think it makes sense. I think $28 is great, but with Edwards there, with Cat there, I still feel like I might want to go and just spread that ownership that I would allocate for him and basically scattershot everybody else below him here. They're a little bit more expensive. I think we'll have the value both from Pacers and from news that'll come out later today. Maybe Giannis is out and that would change a lot, but I think I would prefer at shooting guard to take shots on just about everybody else.
So you have some other places to go. D'Angelo Russell, you mentioned there, had a shin issue, but played 35 minutes last time out. He was fine on Sunday, about a Yahoo point per minute there.
Mm-hmm.
We get into Devon Booker if you wanted, $38. Didn't have to play much at a blowout against Orlando last time around. A little bit more of a challenge tonight, as you mentioned, against the Clippers. Then we get to some of the more value guys. And I think Jaylen Brown has been slumping the last couple, but usually playable. I will say the boom bust tool likes him a little bit at this position.
Yeah, I'm going to bring up one more situation because I think it's probably the one that's going slept on this slate. Ja Morant, questionable. I think even if he suits up, this is a left ankle injury for your franchise player who's been unbelievable this entire season, but this could really change the slate. And what I'm hoping for, and what we should all be hoping for, is we get, tons of news here. That was just like I'm a baby or something. I apologize, but Milwaukee. We have Milwaukee, Indiana. We have Minnesota, Charlotte, and all these great game environments. You're already going to have players that are going to have roster spots from this section of games. I'm hoping as much news as possible comes out after 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, specifically Giannis Antetokounmpo status and Ja Morant status. If he's out, the two most popular players that I will have in my lineups, bar none, are both at the shooting guard position on Yahoo: Desmond Bane, De'Anthony Melton. I think that they vault up the board. I know Tyus Jones is a guy who's back, and I think he would also bear some consideration considering he's the flat $10. That goes a long way for you at point guard. But at shooting guard, Desmond Bane is already in play, already somebody that you should be targeting. He's a fantasy point per minute guy, but what he has is an outrageous ceiling. The usage has been incredible. He's lost since he's been in the lineup. He's only had one loss since January 14th. It's been over a month. He has one loss since he's been in the lineup. De'Anthony Melton. I mean, we're just looking at him being a guy that even in limited time can put up numbers. And now you're looking at a possibility of 28, 30 minutes, possibly even starting. They generally like to bring him off the bench, but at the beginning of the season, the guy was starting in the absence of Ja Morant when he got hurt early on. And I'm looking at him as somebody that you really want to be overinvested to. So watch that Ja Morant news, $17 and $24. They would instantly become two of my favorite plays, period.
All right, so keep an eye, Ja Morant, Giannis. I mean, there's always a few guys and big star guys you got to keep an eye on these NBA slates, but certainly that is the case tonight. As you may know, we have partnered with Yahoo Fantasy this NBA season to bring you some great offers. You can check out our exclusive limited time offer, which gets you a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Now, to qualify, you need to be new to Yahoo. Sign up for an account via the link below, deposit, and play. Yahoo will send us your name after you're paying your first paid contest. We'll reach out via email with your coupon. And if you'd like to speed up the process of getting access, maybe so you can play tonight, email support@awesemo.com. We'll get you all set up there. You can also claim a free $10 of site credit by clicking the link in the video description below, which will be used to enter any Yahoo contest, including tonight's NBA $50,000 baller. Make sure to use our DFS tools and projections at Awesemo, designed specifically for Yahoo to give yourself the best shot at winning big. And if you're not playing on Yahoo, make sure to lock in on that. There's always all kinds of specials, promotions, and ways to really pick up your bankroll, have some advantages there. So be sure to check all that. A ton of overlay on the Super Bowl the other night. So Yahoo is always something you got to have in the mix and something you should be checking out. Small forward position. We got Jason Tatum at the top, $41. Jimmy Butler, $39. Another guy with the Q tag, right shoulder strain for Jimmy Butler. So we'll see if he's able to go tonight after really struggling in his last game. What do you make of the top end of this small forward position?
It is really tough to get up here. If you're not going to play Anthony Edwards, he's the one guy who just kind of stands out for me. Brandon Ingram, I'm always going to invest in tournaments. I think if you're making 10 lineups plus, you should maybe mix in some Brandon Ingram. But even on this slate, it's going to be hard because of how good the value is at the bottom. Small forward is a very obvious, straightforward, you probably need to punt here and save money position. Jason Tatum is going to go really underrepresented. If you want to take that shot against Philly, only a 106 total. We know what that ceiling can be from time to time. We'll see who's all active here for Philly and looking forward to that game. I think from a real life perspective, from a basketball perspective, but really not that enticing from fantasy outside of Joel Embiid for me. Brandon Ingram, $33. Again, he's my boy. I like this guy a lot. I was very wrong when he came out of Duke, and I was very quick to be in tune with he could be a very, very good NBA pro. And at least from a fantasy perspective, has been fantastic here in New Orleans. And Anthony Edwards, he's the guy who's clear cut, underpriced, phenomenal game environment, 125 total. That's really, you can't really go anywhere else outside of Chris Middleton if you get no Giannis. I'm going right back to the well on him there, but currently 4.4% with Giannis projected in. I just don't think that would be a necessary thing The value is just too good at this position to pass up. I will probably sprinkle in some Anthony Edwards regardless, but even my guy, Brandon Ingram, goes a little bit lost because of how good the value is down below.
Yeah, you go to Buddy Hield, $16, played 40 minutes each of his first 2 games in Indiana. He is free to get it going there with the Pacers, but I think everyone's kind of on him. How does that play into your decision-making with Hield tonight?
He hasn't even shot the ball well. 6 for 17, 6 for 19.
Imagine if he
1
does,
for 13 from 3, and he put up 28. He was $16. They didn't move his price. If he shoots the ball well in 40 minutes, it's going to be ridiculous. He's one of the best 3-point shooters of our era, which is so dumb to say out loud. And I don't like him. I've never liked Buddy Hield. That's something that everybody knows about me. If you watch the NBA Slate Starter with Ryan and I, we just argued about Buddy Hield, but there's no denying how good of a piece of chalk he is today because he hasn't shot the ball well. This is a completely new circumstance. All the minutes volatility we saw in Sacramento is gone, absolutely gone here. So I'm looking at Pacers. Lance Stevenson is not going to be a guy who, he played 32 minutes last game, but I don't think that's going to be something going forward here. Malcolm Brogdon, if he plays, would be an absolute disaster to this entire situation and make it a little bit more volatile. But we're talking about Chris Duarte being out for a while now, at least till after the break here. Tyrese Halliburton just out there distributing, doing an amazing job. No Kiefer Sykes is going to cut into Buddy Hield's minutes. I mean, they're just going to see what they have with these guys, as a lot of these teams, Portland, Indiana, playing, big minutes to guys who otherwise wouldn't, whether that's Ellaby and Winslow there in Portland or here. It's just getting Buddy Hield an opportunity to see if he can be a player for this team going forward. And so 40 minutes, it's undeniable that if this game stays intact, obviously it's a 12-point spread, but even still, does Jalen Smith cut into his minutes? Not really. Lance Stevenson's the only guy, but he played 32 minutes alongside Buddy Hield. So we're looking at a phenomenal piece of chalk here. Hasn't even shot the ball well. If he does, you're going to absolutely need him.
Is there a line where the ownership projection sways you a little bit with Hield? Because he's clearly a great play, but it's just a matter of everybody jumps on the bandwagon if you want to maybe overthink it or be a little different.
Yeah, so 55%, I think would kind of be the threshold you're starting to look at. Obviously, we have the boom bust tool that does a good job of encapsulating a lot of DraftKings FanDuel. Obviously, we don't have the leverage score for Yahoo, but you can still kind of see what that bust percentage is going to be for somebody. Buddy Hield is volatile, 33.59% in our projections there, 19.28% boom score you're looking at. But for me, the minutes are too secure to just be saying, I need to fade Buddy Hield. If you're making one lineup, you can basically make a case to fade just about anybody. But if you're making a handful, it's impossible for me not to land on a lot of Buddy Hield. There's not really a pivot other than maybe if you wanted to go Lance Stevenson, but you're giving up 13, 14 minutes that we have projected difference between the two. He can be a high usage guy. And would it surprise me? I mean, he outperformed him last game. He outpaced Buddy Hield, but Buddy Hield legitimately went 1 for 13 from 3. I don't see that happening again.
Other value at this small forward position?
Yeah, we've got Terrence Mann, and this is going to be a tough conversation point for me because I said he's played phenomenal. He started the last 2 games here, and Saturday, you wanted to get to as much of him as possible. I ended up playing Nicholas Batum like a dumb. That was not enjoyable. And then Nicholas Batum played great yesterday, but on a back-to-back here, you have Terrence Mann, who's playing the backup point guard here for Reggie Jackson. Anytime Reggie Jackson is off the floor, Terrence Mann has been running the point here. They've been playing a ton alongside each other. Obviously, their minutes overlap a lot, but $13 is just kind of a bad price tag here. So if you're not going to play Buddy Hield, really what you're looking at doing is trying to pay up for a ceiling of a guy who can put up 60 like a Jason Tatum, which is always viable in tournaments. But I just think because of how many good pieces, Buddy Hield, Terrence Mann, DeAndre Hunter's getting a little bit too much attention for me, but Lance Stevenson, I think, is in a great situation. Anthony Edwards is underpriced at $32. Marcus Morris is sub $20 coming off of another abysmal shooting game here as well. 5 for 13, 1 for 5 from 3 here. Really wasn't involved in that game as much as you would hope, but on a back-to-back against Phoenix, he's definitely somebody that in the playoffs last year was somebody that they leaned on heavily in this spot. Very similar where they didn't have Kawhi Leonard out there. And he's definitely somebody that you can take shots on as well. But Terrence Mann, $13. If he's going to be 26%, that's somebody you should also play a lot of him. Play a lot of Terrence Mann and Buddy Hield together.
Yeah, Mann, Hield, some real good value at the small forward position on this night, even if the higher price guys aren't necessarily who you want to be jumping on the bandwagon with here. Power forward position, Giannis has this ankle injury. He's questionable. We'll see if he's able to go the second game of back-to-back. You pay up for him $56. Usually don't have to worry about it too much with Giannis. Looking elsewhere, I mean, it's a big gap to the second highest price guy at this position. Go all the way down to Miles Bridges at 31. How do you like playing guy? We talked about this a little bit with Buddy Hield, right? Like he had all those shots last game. They didn't connect, but you expect him to come back. Miles Bridges was just 2 of 13 from the field his last time out. We know that's not the norm for him. Do you like playing a guy off a cold game like that, hoping that maybe his ownership drops a little bit, whatever it might be? Does one game affect your thinking at all when that something like that happens?
No, I think most people have become a little bit more data centric as we've gone forward in NBA DFS. The successful players really don't care about a bad shooting performance. They encourage people to look at the box scores, I would say. I would encourage people to look at Buddy Hield and see him go 1 for 13. But for me, that's more reason to say that there's more ceiling that exists there, and he was still serviceable. $16. He put up 28.1 fantasy points. He was in the winning lineup that night, and he shot the ball abysmally. If he shoots the ball well in this spot against Milwaukee, and also think about it this way, if you're going to get no Giannis and you're going to play a lot of Milwaukee Bucks, it just makes it naturally capable to game stack it, because if the game blows out and you get a wonky spot where Buddy Hield only plays 25 minutes and you only get 30 minutes of Tyrese Halliburton and Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton don't get there, at least that whole lineup is sunk. But when you kind of bring them all along for the ride, you're basically saying that this game environment, which again, 234 total, both of them are projected to put up a lot of fantasy points here today. You're basically bringing them along for the ride here. And it's basically saying, first or last. And in tournaments, we're aiming for that top spot. It just inherently makes sense to kind of involve them in a lot of lineups together. It'll happen organically because everybody will project well from Milwaukee if there's no Giannis. And right now, everybody's playing 35 plus minutes, like O'Shea Brissett, Buddy Hield, and Tyrese Halliburton. All of these guys from Indiana just make all the sense in the world to play on the other side.
And well, getting back to his power forward position, tops on the boom bust stool at this position. Tobias Harris is there. You don't have to worry about James Harden cutting into his usage quite yet. Only 18 Yahoo points his last time out, but as we've been talking about, you don't have to go too nuts on what someone just did 24 hours ago, 48 hours ago, whatever it might be. What do you make of the top end of this power forward position?
Yeah, this might be so small forward isn't as enticing. If you get Giannis out there, $56, I think we have enough value. Obviously, you have a lot of Pacers pieces that you want to bring along. And if this game stays intact, Giannis is going to put up massive fantasy points. He's the best fantasy point per minute producer that we've ever seen in terms of just like year in, year out. Nikola Jokic has been unbelievable this season too. But Giannis right now, 1.7 fantasy points per minute on the year. That's lower than his lifetime rate, around 1.8 on Yahoo. So we're talking about a guy that even if he's limited in this spot where he only plays 32, 34 minutes, which happens a lot for this guy, by the way, because they don't play a lot of close games. They've blown out the Lakers. They've blown out the Clippers. They've blown out Portland. They got blown out by Phoenix. They blew out Washington. They got blown out by Denver. Like none of these games have been close of late. If you project Giannis in, I'm going to project him for around 34, 35 minutes. And regardless, like, he can still get to 80. He can still legitimately get to 80 fantasy points in 32 minutes. That's a thing that can happen. So like impossible not to want to get to that ceiling and over. Obviously he's at 0.2% rostership right now. That will not be the case if we get news that he's going to play here. But if you get him out, obviously we know the ramifications of that. We've talked through that yesterday. We're going to talk through it again today. But Giannis would just be unavoidable for me to want to get way above the field on, simply because I think other positions, small forwards specifically, we have Reggie Jackson and a lot of cheaper plays at the point guard position to really kind of lean on if we want to go that direction. I think he just blows the projection away here on the top. And I believe more than 16 fantasy points over Tobias Harris at $29. Obviously, Tobias Harris against Boston, not the easiest spot for him either here. Just give me all the Giannis in the world in tournaments if he's good to go.
And look, I mean, even if you go, let's say $45+ tonight, right? You're looking at John Morant, who's questionable, Luka Doncic, who we talked about a little bit, and maybe isn't in a perfect spot. Joel Embiid at 54. There's not a whole lot really holding you back. And, we gave you some of those Pacers that are more the value end. So paying up for Giannis and not like tonight. I mean, pretty clearly that top guy, even if he's dealing with this ankle injury.
Yeah, it's God, I don't even know where I'm kind of looking at here on the top end. My screen just went blank and I'm trying to stall for a second, but
that'll happen.
Yeah. Well, refreshing it here. It's coming up eventually. I think it's going to show up. What's the circumstance we're talking about one more time here?
Well, there's not a whole lot of top end big money guys that you're going to here. Like 45 huge plus. Gap. Like I said, it's John Morant. Again, Luka, Joel Embiid. There's not that much there. So, Giannis, $56 is not exactly a deal breaker here.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought you were talking about. But we've got it's a punt by default. That's kind of how I like to look at it. When you have nobody expensive at a position, you're punting it by default, basically. You have $31, Miles Bridges. I think the game environment for him, I keep saying game environment, but it can't be understated how good these two games are compared to the other ones that exist on the board here. Pelicans and Memphis could be incredible if you get no John Morant there as well. Circumstances for everybody changes. This entire slate changes. But I think regardless of the status of John Morant, my favorite tournament play, if you're talking about these guys, $31, $29, is Jaron Jackson Jr. You get a massive stocks upside from this guy. He gets in foul trouble from time to time, but he has been an absolute difference maker on the interior for Memphis all year long, and they're going to need him against Jonas Valanciunas, the likening. Obviously, Steven Adams is out there and can help out, but there's no doubt about it. Like going up against Jackson Hayes, Herbert Jones, and everything else, this is just another spot where he could thrive down low and have an opportunity to get 5-6 blocks. And anytime you can talk about that realistically with a guy who hasn't even necessarily seen a minute ceiling as much as you would want because of foul trouble, is only exceeded 31 minutes now once in his last 5 games because, once again, massive foul trouble. You're looking at a minutes cap, 30 minutes that he's basically been at here. If he gets to like 32 or 34, $29 for this guy is an absolute steal. Can get there offensively as well. 5 for 17, shot the ball poorly, and put up 40 fantasy points the other night. So I'm looking at him as the guy that kind of fits that mold of you should be targeting him at 13% way over the field.
3 double-doubles last 5 games for Jaron Jackson. So he has some productiveness of late. Value at the power forward position. A couple of guys that I saw in the boom bust tool. Herbert Jones at $19. Al Horford at $19. Really swooned for a while there, but has put up at least 30 Yahoo points in 3 of the last 4 games for Boston.
Yeah, it's
no upside.
Al Horford is the worst. Can we just call the worst? I can't stand this guy. I thought we were onto something. I thought we had broke ground. And now the minutes volatility has returned in a really meaningful way. And Boston's been playing well. And I think he's been a difference maker in a lot of them defensively. But the usage is just never there sometimes. And now we're looking at Derek White being inserted into the lineup, which, again, Eric, he plays a different position. How can it affect it? Everybody, when you have 5 players on a floor, everybody affects everybody to a certain extent. That's why we do on and off court numbers. And Derek White, I think going forward, we don't have enough sample size, but that's just another guy that Dennis Schroeder, as much as, he was trying to make a difference there, as much as Jason Richardson was trying to make a difference, Derek White will actually make a difference. This guy, I think, is going to be a 20+% usage guy going forward, playing more minutes than either of those two were. We saw 25.5% usage there against Atlanta and 20.4% coming off the bench here for Denver. So I think as Derek White gets more acclimated to this team, if he's playing 30 minutes a night, I think that's going to take the top off for Jaylen Brown. I think it's going to make it difficult for me to want to go completely nuts with Jason Tatum. I still think we can all agree he's probably the most unaffected player that's going to be on this team. Just he's the go-to guy. But Al Horford, there aren't a lot of shots to go around for him if Derek White's going to be involved. 5.5% usage there last game, 11.7% there. That's lower than the 21.4, 16.7. And, obviously there's some meandering numbers there as well. So it's not unheard of, but we'll see as it goes along because he's somebody that at $19, hard for me to want to click on him knowing that Derek White is the new guy that really could take away from that shot volume.
That's a great point, right? Everyone talks about positionless basketball and that kind of thing, but it's wild to me. A point guard goes out and then it's not the backup point guard that ends up getting all the assists. It's, the power forward who's all of a sudden running a point or it's not necessarily linear. Like, a pitcher gets knocked out and a pitcher's going to go in or wide receiver goes out, wide receiver goes in. It throws everything off sometimes when that wrong guy is out. Any other players you want to talk about at power forward?
Nope, what you just said is going to bring us to the center position perfectly because my favorite tournament play of the slate exists there.
All right, hold on to that. And you can, of course, get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with an Awesemo Plus weekly pass. It's just $29.95. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com, including player projections, ownership projections, our Boom Bust tool, lineup builder, and much, much more. And of course, if you're only looking to play NBA DFS, you can sign up for one of our Awesemo Plus NBA packages for as low as $4.95 weekly. Please note that Fantasy Cruncher is an add-on. It can easily be added on with these packages at checkout, but it's not included in our base packages. However, it is a very valuable addition to your DFS arsenal for those looking to enter a multi-enter contest. So stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. Center position, Eric, Joel Embiid is at the top. Well, let's just go where you wanted to go. What's the change here that has you all tickled and excited about this center position?
Well, I got to wait on news, but Jimmy Butler is questionable here for today. I don't know what that status is. I'm not a mind reader, but they're playing Dallas here at home. I think with Kyle Lowry back, I think they can possibly be looking to rest Jimmy Butler in some spots like this. The East is pretty competitive right now. Everybody's stacked together. You got to avoid the 7 spot because you just need to keep winning basketball games. And I think Miami, with all their guys back, it's going to be an all right spot for Jimmy Butler to take a night off here or there. Bam Adebayo. You talk about what changes when you take a guy who ends up benefiting the most. And we have seen routinely over the last couple of years that whenever Jimmy Butler's out, the assist rate goes wild for one Bam Adebayo, one of the most underrated passers in the entire league, bar none. His assist rate with Jimmy Butler off the floor shoots up to around, 20% for a center. And then you have Kyle Lowry that's obviously there, but he hasn't been playing big minutes for this team yet. He was out for a personal issue, which I still don't know what happened there, but good to have him back here for this team, no doubt about it. But Bam Adebayo is just so good at creating for the Miami Heat in the absence of Jimmy Butler. Not really a requirement for him when Jimmy Butler's on the floor. They play a lot more pick and roll together. He's more involved offensively, scoring the basketball. And I think looking around the industry, he's like 9,500 over on FanDuel. We're looking at $35. He's like the third most expensive center, but I doubt he takes any rostership away from Joel Embiid. I think there's some guys a little bit cheaper. Bobby Portis, if there's no Giannis. You have some guys really at the basement. Zubats has been playing big minutes here of late, and opportunity to maybe punt there. But like legitimately, Bam Adebayo, I will be massively over the field on. I think every single time that Jimmy Butler's been out for the last 2.5 years, it's something that I just point to that assist rate. And you just want to be there. It's north of 25% in the absence of Kyle Lowry as well. So, I mean, it would be better to have Lowry out as well. But obviously, Jimmy Butler out, big difference maker. No Tyler Hero there as well. Could be a massive, massive spot to be over on Lowry and Bam Adebayo.
Yeah, and even just looking at this year with Adebayo's numbers, that assist rate, I started hitting that with the player props last week with Adebayo, and I saw how those guys coming back affects his assist total. And I mean, it's a huge factor in what happens there with Miami. So that's a big spot for Adebayo. How about Joel Embiid? I mean, not so much to compare him about anybody else at this position. It's really to compare to Luka, to Giannis, to some of those other guys that you could look to pay up for. I mean, he's been an absolute monster, at least 50 Yahoo points in 7 straight games.
Yeah, I mean, James Harden's not going to play today. He's not going to play on Thursday either. And as long as that's going to be the case, you're going to just have to play Joel Embiid, because if you don't, you're probably losing a lot of nights when he does this nuclear crazy stuff that he's been doing of late. The usage is out of control. Like, it's 47.8% usage last time out, 40.2%, 38.9, 46.7. We're talking about a guy that's shooting at the highest clip of anybody in the NBA. Oh, and he's very good at it too. So hard at $54 to still not be invested. There's a reason that he's going to be the most popular of the expensive studs. If you're paying up for nice things, if we get John Moran out, if we get Giannis out, you should play a ton of Joel Embiid and you should play a ton of Luka Doncic, because their ceilings are just incomparable. Like, you can't compare them to anybody else on the slate. He's in another stratosphere. Now, Karl Anthony Towns, he's garnering more attention because there's a $14 gap. And, if you talk about it compared to other sites, that's more than a difference of like 10K to 8K on DraftKings or something like that. We're talking about a massive difference, like a chasm of difference between their prices. But I don't really care. Joel Embiid, $54. If you basically say, I'm going to be fading him going out every single night, you could be in a lot of trouble. Now, he's got to put up 60 plus most of the time at these type of numbers. If he puts up 55, probably not going to be good enough at this position. And, for me, that's where I'm looking at a guy like Bam. If there's no Jimmy Butler, just jam in that kind of a spot. But if we have salary, if it's going to become awfully starsy and scrubsy, or what studs and duds, I love that so much more from you. Joel Embiid, $54 needs to be your first click.
I'll have to next week. I'll come up with something else. I'll find another rhyming pattern for that to keep differentiating it.
I love rhymes and I love alliteration. I'm a sucker for both.
Oh yeah, I like some alliteration. Let's see. Jared Allen, $30. Bobby Portis, $24. It wasn't the guy who went off necessarily yesterday with Giannis out, but another one of those guys that factors in. If we're looking at that utility spot, maybe I know it's tough to jam a bunch of centers in your lineup on Yahoo, but what might be else an option here?
Yeah, it gets a little bit thin here. If you're looking a little bit further, Clint Capella is somebody that I've got circled. He played 31 minutes, which is a drastic difference. With no John Collins there, this could be a guy that we just need to be invested in really, really early here. And, no John Collins, Danilo Gallinari, he played absolutely abysmally the other night. He's at $11 and garnering a lot of attention on this slate at the power forward spot. Maybe somebody that I should have brought up over there as well. But looking at center, Clint Capella, it's just encouraging to see him get the bulk of those minutes. What's been happening is Okongwu's backed him up, but then they've also played some John Collins at the 5. It's been problematic to really get those minutes up there for him. But just as long as you're going to have Collins out, I think you need to be invested at least a little bit. Now, $21 over here is a pretty good number to be getting. But Bobby Portis, $3 more. If there's no Giannis, he's already a good play with Giannis in there. Again, this is Indiana, 123 total for Milwaukee here. They're 12-point favorites with a questionable Giannis. They basically are saying we expect points to be had by Milwaukee here. So he's already a good play at $24. He becomes one of the best plays on the slate at this position and at any position in the event that you have no Giannis playing.
All right, so breaking it down position by position here as we roll through on Yahoo NBA Live. Let's see, Big Pete asked in the chat, why should I play on Yahoo? I gave a little spiel before. What would you tell someone?
Well, he also said, why should I listen to this guy? He's awful. So don't leave out both parts. I mean, he thinks I suck, so that's fine. I've got.
He likes your hat.
Hey, he does. Thank you. That's very nice. Lacoste, tip the hat. I know he's being sarcastic there too, yes. But this is not sarcasm. And you know what? You can make fun of me. You can say whatever you want. This is just a fact. Lowest rake out of anywhere in the entire industry, 12% management fee, also known as rake. You're not paying nearly as much over on Yahoo to be playing over there day in, day out as what you are playing over on the major sites, DraftKings and FanDuel. It's also a different puzzle. And you want to be playing multiple sites because it gives you a larger portfolio, allows for you to be more price specific, allows for you to have an opportunity. Look at this, 50K Tuesday Night Baller, 11.1% management fee. We're talking 16.5%, 17% on the main sites. That is why Yahoo is the most advantageous spot for your bankroll night in, night out. Plus, with no NFL, I see prize pools going up, up, up. We've got 10K to first in a lot of these. So 10K to first tonight. You've got, 15K to first. Still fantastic prize pools up top there. A lot more realistic for you to go out and win on Yahoo than it is on DraftKings and FanDuel. And so, that's the quick and easy route. Oh, also, I really enjoy where you can't just jam a bunch of studs automatically into lineups. So you have these guys that are $50 plus, over 25% of your cap. You realistically can't play more than 2.
You got to find some duds.
You do. You do.
Make it happen. Milk duds.
I don't work for Yahoo. Tasty. What do you mean? I don't work for Yahoo. Literally don't. Literally just love playing over there. That's why we do these shows.
The chat is fun. So check out the chat.
Big Pete's Card Shop. Have a great day.
Yeah. Give us a like, subscribe, keep up with all of our shows, our DFS offers, Eric's hats, giveaways, and much, much more. Once you do subscribe, hit that notification button to get alerts when our shows do go live. This has been Yahoo NBA Live. We appreciate you hanging out with us here at the Awesemo DFS channel. A ton still to come. We got PGA strategy at the top of the hour, NHL strategy at 2:00 Eastern time, No House Advantage NBA strategy at 4 Eastern. NBA props show at 5 Eastern, and then NBA Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock beginning at 5:30 Eastern time. So loaded up today, even after the NFL season. We appreciate you guys being with us, busting balls. Always enjoy it. This has been Yahoo NBA Live. For Eric Lindquist, get some sleep, bud. I'm Pete McCarthy.
Will do. Good to see you again. Long time.
A little bit. It's nice to be back.